The wind howled across the endless desert plains as the sun bled into the horizon, painting the sky in fire and dust. Jake Turner, a rugged cowboy with a scar running down his cheek and a past he'd never outrun, rode alone. His horse's hooves struck the earth like a heartbeat, steady but tired. He'd been chasing the ghost of fortune, following whispers of gold and forgotten Apache trails. But fate had other plans for him that evening. As darkness fell, a soft cry echoed from a canyon nearby. Jake pulled the reins, alert. He dismounted quietly and followed the sound, his boots crunching against gravel. There, by the flickering light of a dying campfire, he found her. A young Apache girl bound by rough ropes, her face streaked with dirt and defiance. Her eyes, black as obsidian, met his with the ferocity of a wildcat. Without hesitation, Jake cut her free. "Who did this to you?" he asked, his voice low and calm. She didn't answer. Instead, she stood, straightened her torn dress, and stared at him as if measuring the worth of his soul. "White men," she finally said in a voice both fragile and fierce. "They took my tribe's horses. Killed my brother." Jake clenched his jaw. "Then we're after the same kind of men," he muttered, offering her his canteen. She drank without thanks. As the night deepened, the desert turned cold, and the girl refused to sleep. "You should rest," he told her. "You saved me," she replied softly. "But that doesn't mean I trust you." The next morning they rode together, silence hanging between them like smoke. She told him her name was Nita, meaning bear. Fitting, Jake thought, because she was fierce and untamed. They tracked the raiders for 2 days until they found their camp in the canyon below. There were 5 of them, armed and loud, laughing as they bragged about the Apache horses they'd stolen. Nita's hands tightened around the bow she'd reclaimed. Her eyes burned with vengeance. "Stay here," Jake said, loading his rifle. But she shook her head. "This is my fight." Before he could argue, she charged like lightning. The first arrow flew true, striking one man in the throat. Chaos erupted. Gunfire cracked, dust exploded, and Jake joined in, firing from behind a rock. When the smoke cleared, only one outlaw remained, crawling toward his gun. Nita walked over, her steps slow and deliberate. She looked down at him, her face unreadable. "You killed my brother," she said, and the sound of her knife ending it all was lost in the wind. Jake turned away, his heart heavy, but knowing justice had been done. When it was over, they burned the raiders' camp and freed the remaining horses. Nita stood beside him, her hair blowing wildly in the wind. "You're free now," Jake said quietly. She looked at him, really looked at him, and something shifted in her eyes. "No," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're mine now." Jake froze, unsure if she meant it as a claim, a promise, or a curse. The corners of her lips curled into a small, knowing smile. "You saved me," she continued, "and among my people that means our spirits are bound. You walk with me now, cowboy." He tried to laugh it off, but there was something in her tone, something ancient that made his heart pound. "Guess I don't have much choice then," he said, trying to sound light. "No," she answered, stepping closer until their eyes met beneath the dying sun. "You don't." From that day on, they rode together across the wilderness. Jake, the lone drifter, and Nita, the fierce Apache spirit who refused to be broken. Together, they hunted those who preyed on the weak, 2 souls forged by fire and bound by fate. Some said the cowboy went mad, riding with a ghost. Others said love had tamed him. But those who ever crossed paths with the pair never forgot her voice, the haunting whisper of an Apache girl saying, "You're mine now." And if you felt the desert wind just right, you could almost hear it still. Their legend lived on, carried through the dust and silence of time, reminding everyone that sometimes salvation doesn't come gentle. It comes wild, proud, and unyielding. If this story captured your heart, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more tales of courage, mystery, and destiny. Every like, comment, and share helps these stories reach dreamers like you who still believe in the magic of storytelling. So saddle up, partner, because the next legend is waiting just beyond the horizon. Would you like me